Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Appreciate all your support. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Shout out to the 19. Last video is the first time I put some brand new merch. It actually is the 19 for some shirts and stuff, and a couple of them were picked up. So thank you for that. I appreciate that support as well. We have some really, really interesting comments from Sophie Cunningham. And yes, you kind of have to read between the lines a little bit, but I also think it is a pretty clear admission, just without detail, of what has been going on with the Indiana Fever this season. And it is not good at all. It makes it really, really difficult for teams to put together winning performances when you have all of this going on. And no, I'm not even talking about the distraction of Caitlin Clark and her injury and other things, although that plays a part as well. But she also does make a comment that I think is important in terms of who the Indiana Fever are as a team and how that makes things more difficult as well. So I want to take a listen to what we have here with Sophie Cunningham and what this means in terms of the future for the Indiana Fever this season with what they have going on. So we're going to take a listen and we are going to talk about this because it is very, very interesting. Things are about to ratchet up with the Indiana Fever because I know Sophie Cunningham is going to hear some words from the coach. She may hear some words from the front office. I'm sure she'll hear some she will hear some words from some teammates as well. So let's dig in.
How do you bond and stay together during this rough patch?
Yeah, I think so far this season we've had a lot of distractions, you can call it, some injuries. Don't know who's playing. And so there's just a lot of distractions, but I think that's really good for us. Let's go through the adversity early. Let's learn from it. Good news is we're not going to peak too early, so I mean that's a positive. But I think it's not an excuse. Everyone's playing a back-to-back. Everyone has this kind of rough schedule. For us, we get another opportunity tomorrow, and we got to capitalize on it. Dallas is a team that's hungry for a win, and we talk about this. We are circled on everybody's schedule. Everyone, no one likes us, right? So everyone in our locker room, that's the only type of people that we have that we can lean on.
Okay, before we get into the next part, because I want you to hear about the locker room, and I'm going to just bring it back a little bit, but I might have brought it far back enough that you can see, but I'm not sure. Do y'all catch that little smile by Erin McDonald when she said everybody hates us? What's interesting is everybody hates them for multiple reasons, but the one I want to talk about when she said about circled on the schedule that I think is important because it's easy to look from the outside and be like, well, that shouldn't matter, and it shouldn't matter, but it does. And what I mean is we're all human and not everybody's athletes don't they should they get paid to it's a job it's a blessing, but they don't play with the same intensity every game in and game out. There are certain teams or even certain individual opponents or what have you that they get up for more so than others, right? And they add this level of intensity, and that happens against certain teams. Usually it's a defending champion and usually, or a hated division rival like the Philadelphia Phillies, if I may, with say the Atlanta Braves or the New York Mets, and the Eagles are going to face that this year, just like was it last year the Kansas City Chiefs faced it, right? And it's even more so in a sport like the NFL with fewer games, right? The Eagles are going to have a tougher schedule, but it's also going to be every team, not just because it's the Eagles, but it's because it's the defending Super Bowl champions. That game is going to be circled, and teams that is their, especially teams that don't have a shot at the actual Super Bowl, that is their Super Bowl, their chance to beat the Eagles. And the Fever are facing that because of Caitlin Clark, but because it's America's team, right? So that's the team on the schedule that every team is going to get up for, and every team is going to want to beat. So that does make it tough because you are getting everybody's best effort game in and game out, and no other team is getting that. All right, so I want to get to the next point because this is really important because she talks about the team itself and the state of the team in the locker room. And I may have dialed it back a little too far, but sorry about that. But hey, you can catch Aaron McDonald's smirk when Sophie says everybody hates us.
And we talk about this. We are circled on everybody's schedule. no one likes us, right? So everyone in our locker room, that's the only type of people that we have that we can lean on, and we got to be better in that area. We have got to stay disciplined. We have to stay focused. We need to get consistent, and we got to lean on each other. And I think that we've kind of wavered a little bit on that. We have our own islands, but as one of the leaders on the team, I got to do a better job of grouping people, right? In the fourth. It's going to kill us, right? Like they scored 35 points, I think you guys said. That just cannot happen. Can't happen. Or if they do, then we need to be scoring 35, 36, 37 points. So we just got to be better from top to bottom. But the schedule thing, that's just an excuse. We're in this league. We're pros, and you got to be a pro, and tomorrow we got to bring it.
Well, isn't that interesting? First, before the locker room stuff, though, it's also interesting what she said about the fourth quarter lead, and I've talked about this in a few now, right? Where we see they're giving up 50 plus points in the second half in multiple games. I believe in three of the last four Fever games, they have had double digit second half leads and then lost those games. That is inexcusable. And look, I'm not going to say, oh, that's all on the coach, but a lot of times, right, teams become what their coach is. They have become a reflection of their coach. And Stephanie White has made no quality adjustments in the second half. She gets leads and then she goes full, playing it in quicksand, grind it out, old school WNBA, no imagination, physicality, and just try and grind out wins like she's done with the Connecticut Sun. It's absolutely horrifically bad coaching. Now, to that point, though, it's also a lack of killer instinct from players, but they also go hand in hand. If you have Caitlin Clark out there and Stephanie White saying, "No, we're going to put you off the ball. We're going to slow it up. If you get the ball in the backcourt, nobody's going to run out in front of you on the court. We're not going to give you opportunities. We don't want you taking these deep 3-point shots." That's going to play in as well. Okay, and then that's going to take away that killer instinct from Caitlin that she does have. Because I promise you, players like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Allen Iverson, back in the day, you go into players like that, they absolutely are not going to find it acceptable to ever blow a double digit second half lead. They are going to put a dagger in the heart of their opponent and they're going to increase that lead. There is no let up with players like that, but the Fever do not seem to have that killer instinct. They have an inability to close out games. Kelsey Mitchell, even though she can get hot at times, and you know what I think of her as a player, what she can be, she doesn't have that. Aaliyah Boston doesn't have that. We know Natasha Howard doesn't have that. Dewana Bonner never had that. It is a problem. Lexi Hull, I think, has it, but Lexi Hull is not a focal point in terms of offensive production. She gets her points for sure, but we all know, same with Sophie Cunningham. She's not taking a ton of shots. She's not a 20-point scorer on this team. She's not a focal point of the offense. And I think they have that mentality, but not enough players do. But let's get back to what she said, right? The locker room, you heard it. She didn't name names. She didn't say why, but she made it clear that it is a locker room that is divided. It is not a cohesive team. It is not a cohesive locker room. They are on their different islands. And she said, hey, I got to do a better job of trying to bring them together. Here is the problem that I see with that. I don't think those players want to be. I think, oh man, I'm afraid to say that the front office did what they did in the offseason with malicious intent. But then I step back and think, well, how could they possibly be hired as a front office and be this incompetent to make bad decision, horrifically bad decision after horrifically bad decision? And so I'm like, wow, malicious intent, unbelievably, breathtakingly bad incompetence. I mean, I don't know which it is. Maybe it's a little bit of both. But what they did last season was, and obviously it's not actually criminal, but I want to use the word criminal just to make a point as to how I feel about it. They signed not only a bunch of over the hill, over the top players who have long seen their better days, but they have taken haters. They have signed hatelins instead of bringing in young players, young athletic players, exciting players that want to run, drafting players like that, complementary players to Caitlin Clark. Although, to be fair, they actually lucked into drafting one of them, but they never play her. Michaela Timpson should be getting minutes. And no, I don't care if she struggles. She should be getting 10 to 15 minutes a game and start gaining experience and build on that. I mean, what's the point? You're not having Caitlin Clark. You're losing games anyway. Get Michaela Timpson on the court. But here's the problem. Part of that fractured locker room to me is because of Stephanie White. She is part of the problem as well. This is a team designed to crush Caitlin Clark's spirit. I can't wait for the comments about, oh, you're such a hater, and oh, this is so delusional. Thank you for watching. I appreciate the hate watch. I appreciate the hate comment. It helps tremendously. But this is an absolute mess. Now, look, we've talked about this before. Natasha Howard does not like Caitlin Clark. Natasha Howard came in here wanting to be MVP. She wants to grift off of Caitlin Clark's popularity and play in front of those fans and get the opportunities, but she wants to be the star. And she is an old school, incredibly slow, pounded into the paint, selfish player, and she does not help this team. I don't care if once in a while she gets 20 points. She is not a net plus for this team. And then don't get me started on her wifey and her mother spending 24/7 on Twitter lashing out at the Indiana Fever and their fans. People who absolutely hate Caitlin Clark are her close family, and she's done nothing to rein it in. Brianna Turner, absolute 100% old school, radical left wing activist. And I'm not saying the players can't be left wing at all. Okay, I've said this a million times and it's wild. And I said this the other day to somebody. I said I am blocked by by so many Fever fans on Twitter who are clearly left wing, and yet I'm blocked by a whole lot of other Fever fans on Twitter who have conservative or MAGA in their bio. I'm blocked by the left. I'm blocked by the right. My point is, get the politics out of it. But the WNBA is practically built on political activism. And so when I say that about Bree Turner, I'm not going after the leftism. I'm just describing what she is. I'm going after the activism. We saw in the interviews, she tried to be calm about it, but when you had the whole investigation going, she was thrilled. She was thrilled that the WNBA was investigating Fever fans. I said it from day one. She was a terrible signing. She's everything that's wrong with the WNBA pre Caitlin Clark, but the Indiana Fever front office signed her. Sydney Colson. Now, by all accounts, Sydney Colson, from what we see, has been nothing but a model teammate. Okay? But Sydney Colson is someone who was fans with Asia Wilson. Sydney Colson, who was someone who made some questionable tweets that we saw. But I will say, from the outside, I haven't seen anything from Sydney Colson that could be a problem. In fact, I saw when she missed that ridiculous, one of the easiest, most open little shots I've ever seen in that game the other night, and she missed it. And Damiris Dantas thankfully was there to follow and make it. She posted out on Twitter in response to someone saying something about, I forget how she worded it now, but it was funny and basically calling it an assist. And look, I say props, shout out to Sydney Colson for that attitude. I thought it was funny. I thought that was a great way for a player to handle criticism. So I'm not going to throw Sydney Colson under the bus. Dewana Bonner obviously was a problem here. Now, again, who is Dewana Bonner's what? And I think they're married. Some people are saying they're not. They've just been together a long time. But obviously, she is with Alyssa Thomas, who is one of those players who last year called the Fever fans the R word, right? That whole nonsense and talking about the things that were being yelled at players, which was, in fact, a complete lie. And here you go with Sophie Cunningham saying we have a problem in the locker room. Does anyone think that the problem in the locker room doesn't revolve around people who cannot stand Caitlin Clark and those who are friends with Caitlin Clark? This is a serious problem, and this is why I said partially tongue in cheek, although the more I see, the less I think it's tongue in cheek when I make comments about saying Stephanie White had a very different, and the front office had a very different meaning of the word culture than the fans did in the offseason when they kept talking about building a culture. Because it seems like the culture they are building is an anti Caitlin Clark pro old school WNBA activism culture. And that is going to be a problem going forward. That is one of the reasons they're struggling. That, to me, is one of the reasons you have seen the fire go out of Caitlin Clark since the Connecticut Sun game. And yes, obviously, I think injury play into performance as well. But injury for a player who's playing with an injury who has that fire and that competitive spirit like a Caitlin Clark, it is not going to stop them from getting the fans up and showing that emotion. That is something else. And that is a problem from the front office to the head coach who is supposed to be a leader and putting together a cohesive team that has everyone's back. We saw it last year, but we saw it clear as day in the Connecticut Sun game that her teammates do not have Caitlin Clark's back. And that is a huge, huge problem for this team. Stephanie White is a serious, serious issue. She cannot lead this team. This team has got to make changes. By the way, what are we going to do when Caitlin Clark's not in the All-Star game, WNBA? What are you going to do? It's in Indy. Everyone's going to see Caitlin Clark, but she may not play because of what's been going on with this league and the referees this season. But I'm going to leave it there. As always, appreciate you checking out this video so much. Thank you for all your support. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Do appreciate it, and I will talk to you later.